The moment Rory McIlroy stopped biting his tongue, professional golf changed forever. For years, fans believed the biggest battle in the sport was between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, but what was unfolding behind closed doors was even more explosive. This wasn't about prize money, rankings, or another tournament victory. It was about power, control, and one superstar who finally decided he had enough. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the player who has carried the PGA Tour through some of its darkest moments was now reportedly preparing legal action against the very organization he helped protect. That isn't just another headline, it is the kind of moment that can reshape an entire sport. Rory McIlroy has never been afraid to speak his mind, but this time was different. This time, frustration had reached a level where silence was no longer an option. Every golfer knows that success comes from trusting your swing, but Rory believed the people running the game were asking players to trust a future they could no longer see. That loss of trust became the spark behind one of the most talked about controversies in recent PGA Tour history. While fans were focused on birdies and leaderboards, executives were quietly discussing sweeping changes that promised to transform professional golf forever. The new vision sounded exciting on paper. Bigger events, more television value, greater commercial opportunities. But beneath those promises, many players feared something priceless was being sacrificed. Historic tournaments that had built the identity of the PGA Tour suddenly looked as though they would become secondary attractions. Generations of tradition appeared to be giving way to a business model driven almost entirely by ratings and revenue. Most players watched carefully without saying much. Speaking against leadership carries risks, especially when your career depends on the same organization. Rory, however, was never interested in protecting his image if it meant ignoring what he believed was right. His first comments were calm, measured, and respectful, but underneath them was a clear warning that he would not allow anyone else to dictate how his career should be managed. As the months passed, the proposed changes became clearer, and so did Rory's concerns. He questioned whether creating different levels of tournaments would slowly erase the importance of long-standing events that generations of golf fans had grown up watching. To him, the value of those tournaments could never be measured only by television ratings or sponsorship revenue. Their history mattered, their legacy mattered, their emotional connection with fans mattered. That belief placed him on a direct collision course with PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp, whose responsibility was to modernize the business and secure golf's financial future. From Rolapp's perspective, change was necessary. Sports evolve, audiences change, and television partners demand premium products. Concentrating the biggest stars into fewer elite tournaments seemed like the fastest path towards stronger ratings and greater commercial success. Yet to many traditionalists, that strategy threatened the very soul of professional golf. Rory wasn't simply criticizing a scheduling proposal, he was defending the identity of the PGA Tour itself. Then came the press conference that sent shockwaves through the golf world. Instead of offering a carefully crafted corporate response, Rory openly questioned the direction the tour was taking. His comments immediately became the biggest talking point across golf media. Supporters praised his honesty, believing someone finally had the courage to challenge decisions being made behind closed doors. Critics accused him of resisting progress and protecting the past instead of embracing the future. Overnight, the conversation stopped being about tournament formats and became a debate over leadership, loyalty, and who truly represented the interests of professional golfers. As tensions grew, every interview, every public appearance, and every statement carried extra weight. Fans began reading between the lines, searching for clues about what was really happening behind closed doors. Reports of private meetings only fueled speculation that the relationship between Rory and tour leadership had become increasingly strained. Neither side appeared willing to back down. The disagreement had evolved beyond policy into something much more personal. Then another issue poured gasoline onto the fire. Rory announced a tournament schedule that immediately raised questions about the tour's participation requirements. Normally, such situations would trigger penalties or disciplinary action. Instead, discussions of exemptions and special circumstances quickly surfaced. Rather than calming the controversy, those reports created an entirely new one. Some believed the tour was protecting its biggest star. Others argued that applying different standards to different players damaged the credibility of the entire organization. Ironically, the reported flexibility did little to help Rory's public image. Instead, it created the appearance that he was receiving treatment unavailable to everyone else, something many believe he never wanted in the first place. The controversy was no longer just about scheduling or tournament structure. It had become a battle over fairness, transparency, and accountability. Every new development deepened the divide between those who believed golf needed bold reform and those convinced its traditions were being sacrificed too quickly. Then came the reports that transformed a heated disagreement into an international headline. Rumors emerged that lawyers had become involved, with claims that legal warnings were being prepared following growing frustration over public comments and private discussions. Whether every reported detail ultimately proves accurate or not, the mere possibility of legal action revealed how severely the relationship had deteriorated. Once lawyers enter the conversation, trust has already disappeared. At that point, neither side is simply trying to win an argument. They are trying to protect reputations, authority, and their future. For the PGA Tour, the stakes could hardly be higher. Rory McIlroy is far more than another player. He is one of the sport's biggest global stars, a multiple-time major champion, and one of the most recognizable faces in modern golf. When someone of his stature publicly challenges leadership, sponsors pay attention, broadcasters pay attention, fellow players pay attention, and fans around the world begin asking uncomfortable questions. That is why this story reaches far beyond one disagreement between a player and a CEO. It represents a struggle over who gets to shape the future of professional golf. Will business priorities outweigh history? Will players have a stronger voice in major decisions? Or will the tour continue moving toward a new era regardless of the resistance? Those questions remain unanswered, but one thing is certain. The conflict has exposed deep divisions that can no longer be hidden. Whether Rory ultimately changes the tour's direction or the leadership pushes ahead with its vision, professional golf has reached a crossroads unlike any seen in years. The next decision made by either side could determine not only the future of one superstar, but also the future identity of the PGA Tour itself, and every golf fan in the world will be watching to see who makes the next move.